In the far reaches of the galaxy, a weary bounty hunter drags an unbreakable chain across a neon dock, leading a dragon so massive and mysterious that entire colonies fear its name. Yet in the silence of its golden eyes lies a secret that could shatter empires, ignite rebellion, and change the fate of every world forever. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video and tell us in the comments where are you watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. The chain rattled softly against steel, echoing through the vast landing dock of Helix Haven Station. Jax Monroe walked with steady steps, the heavy links looped around his gloved hand. His boots were scuffed and worn, carrying the dust of countless planets. Behind him, the dragon moved with a calm power, its scales shimmering in shades of bronze and green under the glow of neon lights. The crowd parted as the enormous creature passed, fear and wonder mixing in the eyes of everyone watching. Jax kept his hat tilted low, the brim shadowing his eyes. He was no stranger to attention, but this was different. A dragon on a chain was something most people only whispered about in old legends. Merchants froze at their stalls, traders stopped mid-deal, and children pressed their faces to glass panels above the walkway. The station was alive with sound, yet around Jax and his captive, there was a hush, as though the air itself held its breath. The dragon, called Soravel, let out a low rumble that shook the deck plates. Its golden eyes followed Jax closely, not with anger, but with a quiet intelligence that made the Wrangler's skin prickle. Those eyes seemed to ask questions without words, questions Jax was not ready to face. He tugged gently at the chain. "Keep moving, big fella," he said, his voice calm like a rancher guiding livestock. But this was no steer, and no simple beast. This was something older, something that carried centuries in its gaze. A hovercam buzzed into view, followed by a quick-talking reporter named Piper Rowe. Her voice was sharp, eager for headlines. "Jax Monroe," she called. "Is it true you captured this dragon alone on the red side of Orion's ribs? Our viewers are desperate to know." She leaned closer, her camera flashing with blue light. 12 million credits on its head. How did you do it? What's your secret?" Jax didn't break stride. "No secret," he muttered. "Just rope, steel, and luck." Soravel snorted, a puff of steam rolling out like smoke from a furnace. The reporter stumbled back, nearly dropping her device. The crowd murmured, both afraid and amazed, as the dragon's massive tail scraped the deck, with a sound like stone grinding against stone. Up ahead, the Sandrunner waited. Battered but loyal, Jax's ship stood ready with its rant lowered. At the top was Nora Kestrel, his partner of many years. Her silver hair was pulled tight. Her prosthetic arm gleamed in the neon glow. And her expression was a mix of disbelief and pride. "You actually did it," she said, crossing her arms. "When you said you were going after a sky dragon, I thought you'd finally lost your mind." Jax led Soravel up the ramp. "Thought the same myself," he admitted. "But here we are." The dragon's claws clanged against the metal ramp as it followed, wings folding tighter against its back. Jax guided it into a containment area reinforced with force fields and padded walls. It was built strong enough to hold, but as he secured the chain, he couldn't shake the feeling that the dragon allowed it all, that the creature was playing along. The hum of the station filled the air again. Smells of roasted food drifted from the market, blending with the antiseptic tang of recycled air. Traders argued in distant corners, but their voices lowered whenever they glanced toward the ramp. Everyone knew something extraordinary had just stepped onto their station. Nora tapped the scanner on her wrist. "These readings don't make sense," she said quietly. "It's almost like the dragon is speaking in frequencies, as if it's trying to communicate." Jax looked at Soravel, who met his gaze with eyes that seemed endless. For a moment, He thought he heard something in the silence. Not words, but meaning. The ship's engines stirred to life. The Sandrunner was ready to leave, ready to carry its strange cargo away from the watching eyes of Helix Haven. But as the ship prepared to rise, a shadow fell across the docking bay. Above them, a sleek black vessel appeared, so dark it seemed to drink in the starlight. It bore no markings, no signals, no name. A voice came across the comm, smooth and calm. "Jax Monroe, Nora Kestrel, stand by. We are here for the dragon." Jax felt the weight of those words press against his chest. His grip tightened on the chain, though deep down he knew steel would not decide this battle. Behind him, Soravel shifted, wings rustling with restrained power. The crowd outside gasped as the unknown ship hovered closer. The Wrangler had captured the impossible. But as the docks filled with silence, Jax wondered if he was the one now caught in a chain he could not see. The Sandrunner drifted through space with its engines humming steady. But the calm did not last. Without warning, the lights flickered, the panels dimmed, and the navigation screen went black. Nora Kestrel slammed the console with her hand, frustration in her voice. "Systems are shutting down. This isn't natural interference." Jax Monroe gripped the arm of his chair, eyes narrowing at the sudden silence that spread through the ship. Then out of the void, a ship appeared. It did not arrive with speed or sound. It simply existed, as though it had been hiding in the dark the whole time. Its hull absorbed starlight, a sleek black surface with no markings, no seams, no sign of weapons. Jax's stomach tightened. This was no ordinary vessel. It was the Dusk Fold, a name whispered in trade posts and taverns, always spoken like a rumor you hoped was not true. The comm system clicked to life. A calm voice filled the cockpit, clear and steady. "Jax Monroe, Nora Kestrel, do not resist. We are here for the dragon." The words hung heavy in the cabin. Nora met Jax's eyes. "They know our names," she whispered. "They know everything." The airlock groaned as a docking tube connected itself to the Sandrunner. Jax rose, pistol resting against his thigh, but he did not lift it. Something about the silence in the docking tube told him weapons would be useless. Footsteps echoed. 3 figures stepped aboard, their armor bending the light around them. They were tall, precise, and silent, until the leader removed a dark hood, revealing a face lined with years and marked with silver tattoos that curved like rivers. He bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "I am Captain Lumen Quaid," the figure said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "We mean no harm to you. Our purpose is only the dragon." Jack stood firm. "Charter bounty says different. 12 million credits. That's more than enough for me and my partner to live well past our years. If you want this creature, you'll need to pay the guild like anyone else." Lumen shook his head slowly. "The guild has been fed lies. The bounty is built on false stories. What you carry is not a monster. It is the last of a royal line from Drakkara, a world burned by the Dominion Syndicate." With a flick of his wrist, a projection lit up the cabin. A green planet spun in the air, surrounded by 3 moons. Then came fire from orbit, giant warships unleashing destruction. Cities fell. Dragons plummeted from the sky. The vision ended in silence. Nora's brow furrowed as she scanned the data spilling from her wrist console. "Jax, he's right. The official records don't line up. One report claims a dragon destroyed a colony, while another places the same beast 3 systems away, and another describes a 4-winged creature, not 2 like ours." She tapped her display, showing conflicting testimonies. "These are staged events." Jax glanced back toward the cargo hold. Behind the reinforced barriers, Soravel shifted, his golden eyes glowing faintly in the dark. The dragon's breath rumbled, and then with a voice deep and quiet, he spoke. "Too late." The words were low, but they carried through the walls, filling the cabin with an ancient weight. Jax froze. The dragon had spoken. After all the rumors, the silence, and the stares, he now knew the truth. Nora's hand shook slightly as she looked at him. "Too late for what?" she whispered. But the dragon did not answer. His eyes said more than words ever could. Lumen stepped closer. "We offer you 30 million credits, more than double the guild's price. All we ask is that you release him to us. With your help, he can return to those waiting for him. Without it, the Dominion will capture him, and the last of his kind will be erased." He let the words settle before continuing. "This is not about money, Jax. It is about survival. It is about truth." Jax felt the weight of the choice pressing on him. 30 million credits would buy peace, a quiet life, and freedom from the endless chase of bounty hunting. But in his gut, he knew credits could not wash away the image of a world burning, nor the sound of Soravel's voice. The dragon was not a beast. He was a survivor, carrying the hope of his people. Nora's voice broke the silence. "So what do we do, Jax? Sell him to the guild? Or believe the Duskfold and risk everything?" Jax did not answer. His eyes turned once more to the cargo hold. Soravel's golden gaze was waiting, calm and steady, as if the dragon already knew which choice he would make. Jax Monroe stood in the cargo hold of the Sandrunner, his hand pressed against the release lever that bound the dragon. The chain was thick, forged from tempered steel meant to hold anything alive, but deep down, Jax knew it was only there because Soravel allowed it. The dragon's golden eyes locked on his, patient and calm, waiting for him to decide. The bounty hunter felt his heart pounding like a hammer, not from fear, but from the weight of the choice in front of him. Outside the ship, alarms were blaring. Dominion cruisers had dropped out of hyperspace, their sleek black hulls blotting the stars. They were moving in fast, prepared to board and take the dragon by force. Lumen Quaid of the Duskfold stood nearby, his voice low and steady. "Time is short, Monroe. Once they land, there will be no chance. Decide now, gold or truth." Nora Kestrel watched from the side, her arms crossed, her face hard, but her eyes uncertain. She had lived her whole life chasing jobs for credits, but she knew what was at stake. "Jax," she said quietly, "if you're going to do it now. No more waiting." Jax thought of his grandmother's voice, her simple words from long ago, "Don't let them make you small." He remembered every bounty he had ever collected, every fight, every capture, every promise that order was worth the cost. But staring at Soravel, he realized order was only another chain, one meant to keep truth locked away. With a sharp breath, Jax pulled the lever. The lock clicked and the chain slid to the floor. The sound was not violent, not loud, soft, like rain falling on tin, each link striking the metal deck in rhythm. The dragon stretched his wings slowly, filling the hold with a presence both terrifying and beautiful. The air trembled with power, yet Soravel moved gently, folding his wings once more. He was free, and yet he chose not to attack. Nora wiped her forehead with her metal hand. "Well," she whispered, "there goes 12 million credits." "No," Jax said, voice steady, "there goes a lie." The calm crackled. Dominion voices demanding surrender. The Sandrunner shuddered as tractor beams began pulling it toward the waiting cruisers. Lumen stepped forward, his hand lifting to activate a device on his wrist. A glowing oval doorway formed in the air, a portal leading directly into the Duskfold ship, the Whisperwind. The air on the other side glowed softly, filled with a strange warmth. "Move quickly," Lumen urged. "You have less than a minute." Jax turned to Nora. "Grab what matters. Leave the rest." She nodded and disappeared down the corridor. Jax sprinted to his quarters, pulling a worn canvas bag from under his bunk. He packed his grandmother's journal, his parents' rings, and an old harmonica that squeaked more than it played. He hesitated, staring at the walls of the Sandrunner, at the ship that had carried him across the stars. Leaving it felt like leaving home. Back in the cargo hold, Nora stood with her own small bundle. The dragon was waiting near the portal, his golden eyes shining with quiet understanding. "She deserves better than to be taken," Jack said softly, touching the bulkhead. Lumen pressed his wrist device again, and a command pulsed through the ship. "Your vessel will self-destruct," Lumen explained. "She will not fall into Dominion hands." Jax nodded, his throat tight. "Thank you." Together, they stepped through the portal. The Whisperwind was nothing like the Sandrunner. Its walls curved like the inside of a seashell, glowing with bioluminescent veins. The air smelled of cinnamon and rain. Soft seats shaped themselves around their bodies, and the deck thrummed with a steady, reassuring hum. Soravel moved through with grace, his body folding in ways that defied reason, fitting perfectly into the space prepared for him. On the viewing arc, Jack saw the Sandrunner shrinking behind them. Dominion cruisers loomed, weapons glowing with energy. The Sandrunner shone bright white, then exploded into fragments, scattering like sparks in the void. The shockwave rattled even the Whisperwind. Jax clenched his fists, his jaw tight. "She went down fighting," he said, his voice rough. Soravel turned his head, his deep voice rolling like distant thunder. "Your ship died for freedom. Ships can be rebuilt. Truth cannot." Jack stared at him, silent, the words sinking into his chest. The Whisperwind surged forward, not through hyperspace, but through something stranger. The stars twisted, bending into shapes that seemed impossible. Colors poured like liquid, and the air itself tasted sharp, almost electric. Nora gasped softly. "This isn't hyperspace," she whispered. Lumen's calm voice answered, "No, this is a sideways path. The Dominion cannot follow here." Time stretched and folded, until at last, they emerged into calm space. Before them hung a planet of deep oceans and green continents, surrounded by a glowing sanctuary ring. Dragons glided through the sky above it, their wings catching the light like lanterns. Jax leaned forward. His breath caught in his chest. Hope had survived after all. The Whisperwind slid gently into the embrace of the sanctuary ring. The ship's curved walls glowed with soft light as docking arms wrapped around it like careful hands. Jax Monroe leaned against the viewing arc, his eyes fixed on the planet below. Oriel shimmered with blue oceans and green continents, clouds sparkling as if they carried their own light. For the first time in years, he felt his chest ease. He was staring at a world that looked like hope. Dragons drifted above the planet, their wings catching the sun like banners. They moved with a grace that made the silence in the cabin heavy with awe. Nora Kestrel stood beside Jax, her metal arm resting against the glass. "They're alive," she whispered. "Not just one, but many." Her eyes reflected the glow of the dragons as they glided past, free and unchained. In the center of the docking chamber, Soravel raised his head, his golden eyes shining brighter than ever. The great dragon inhaled, then released a deep, steady breath that rolled through the room like a song too low to hear, but strong enough to feel. The sound was not a roar, not a threat. It was gratitude. Jax knew it in his bones. They stepped off the Whisperwind onto the sanctuary platform. The air was fresh, cool, and filled with the scent of water and growing things. A woman in simple slate-colored robes approached. She introduced herself as Mira Cal, one of the keepers of Oriel. "Welcome," she said softly. "You have carried a heavy burden. Now let us help you set it down." Her eyes lingered on Soravel with reverence. "Your people have waited for you." Nora's gaze turned to a chamber beyond the platform, where a cradle of light held dozens of frost-silver shapes. She leaned closer. "Are those eggs?" Mira nodded. 27. The last clutch of a lost world. We have protected them with all we have. Her words fell like stone into the silence. And Jax felt the weight of it press into him. The dragon species was not gone. It was waiting. Alarms stirred faintly through the sanctuary ring. Lumenquade's second officer reported that Dominion ships had arrived at the edge of the system. They had followed the trail, hungry for control. Lumen's calm voice broke the tension. They will try to twist fear into chains, but we will answer with truth. Soravel stepped forward, his claws clicking softly against the platform. "Let me speak," he said. His voice carried the sound of thunder, softened by distance, steady and clear. The keepers guided him to a dais at the heart of the chamber. The dome above shifted into a massive lens. Light poured from it, weaving into strands that stretched out into the void like threads of silk. Images formed. Jax walking the docks with the dragon. Nora's quiet resolve. The false Dominion records. The burning of Drakkara. And finally, the moment when the chains fell away like rain. Applause. The truth was no longer rumor. It was story, visible to anyone who watched. Jax shifted uncomfortably as his face appeared in the light. "Why me?" he asked quietly. Miracal smiled. "Because you chose. Because people believe honesty when it is simple. Your story is the bridge." He nodded, though the thought sat heavy on him. But he could not deny that it felt right. On the system's edge, the Dominion ships paused. Public channels flared with questions. Soldiers hesitated. Civilians demanded answers. The sanctuary's broadcast cut through fear like sunlight cutting mist. The Dominion had power, but power wavered when truth found its voice. Soravel turned to Jax. "You are more than a hunter now. You are a story keeper. Your choice has kept the fire alive." Jax swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Then I'll carry it," he said. "Not for credits, but because it's worth carrying." Nora nudged him with her elbow, a faint smile on her face. "And because you'd be lost without me." Jax chuckled, the sound tired but real. Outside the dome, dragons rose into the air, their wings catching light like lanterns at dusk. Soravel joined them, soaring higher until his shadow stretched across the sanctuary. It was not a show of force, but a symbol of survival. For the first time in decades, the galaxy would see dragons not as monsters, but as truth made flesh. Jax stood with Nora at the edge of the platform, the planet glowing below, the sanctuary alive with new beginnings. Behind them, the Whisperwind prepared for whatever came next. Ahead of them, Ariel promised tomorrow. Jax took a long breath, steady and sure. The chains were gone, but the story was just beginning.